Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I know this is the graveyard shift, but it is also the best shift, and I'll tell you why. Because the ladies are the ones in the panel. They are the ones bringing this session home. So please, ladies, will you indulge me and stand up from wherever it is that you're seated? Please stand up, ladies, wherever you are. If you consider yourself a lady, please stand up. Now, I will ask a very, please don't be seated. What is unique about Botswana, ladies? What is unique to you about Botswana? Nobody? Anybody? Yes. The customer service, somebody else? Or maybe there's a gentleman that wants to answer because the ladies may not remember. The people, somebody else. Yes. The cultural diversity, somebody else. Yes. The energy, just one more person before I give you what I think is so unique about Botswana and women. Somebody, what's that? The empowerment of women. We're using these soft terms. But ladies and gentlemen, we're in the country that has the best diamonds in the world. True? Ladies, diamonds are a girl's best friend, aren't they? And we're in the country that produces the best diamonds in the world. True? So please be seated. Thank you. Now, this particular panel will be looking at the empowerment of women in the tourism industry and specifically raising capital for women entrepreneurs. So I would like to invite my panelists one by one. And my first panelist, ladies and gentlemen, embodies all things tourism. She has spent the last 26 years in this specific industry. She has provided strategic transformation leadership to every board position she has taken up. Her current role entails the impressive overseeing of 460 companies, which make up the entire hospitality and tourism subsector in Botswana. That includes camps, lodges, hotels, tour operators, airline charters, and services. Ladies and gentlemen, please let us put a face to the name of the lady who is currently overseeing all things in the private sector in the tourism space in Botswana, Madam Lily Rokarong. Thank you. Please be seated. All right. And ladies and gentlemen, Lily is the CEO of HATAB, which is the Hospitality Tourism Association of Botswana. Our second panelist is a former banker with both Citi and Standard Chartered in Bangladesh. She has spent the bulk of her career working in different capacities in the form of product development and relationship management. And she has led the investment and intermediaries for capital market and infrastructure business whilst at Standard Chartered. She has a rich background in banking, and she is currently responsible for implementing the IFC's country strategy in Botswana, and she has just relocated into the country. So she's still settling in because she's only been here for 7 months. But I hope her experience in the country is pleasurable so far. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the financially focused Nuzat Anwar. Thank you. Please be seated. Now, my third panelist, ladies and gentlemen, is joining us virtually. Did you know that there is a World Tour and Tourism Council? You do know. Somebody in the audience knows. You do know. Who else knows that there is a WTTC, There you go, there you go. Better than? It happened in Rwanda. Okay, fine, fair enough, that's good. Now, it represents, the WTTC represents the travel and tourism sector globally. Our next speaker wasn't first in the tourism sector. Interestingly, she's an electrical and mechanical engineer. And after joining the travel and tourism industry 25 years ago, she has risen through the ranks and is now the engagement and projects director, membership and commercial within this very prestigious organization. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the ever-smiling Marcelia Lizaraga, and she's online, right there. Thank you for joining us, Lizaria, Marcella. And fourthly, our next panelist has over 10 years' experience in structuring and leading investment proposals in the tourism sector in South Africa. She's also a director in a clean tech-driven innovation company. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Katlego Mafatlele, who is a senior deal maker for the Tourism Industrial Development Corporation in South Africa. And our fifth panelist has a passion for the community and uses her platform to make a positive impact in Botswana through education, economic development, and social justice. She's currently the founder and managing director of a series of guest houses called Comfort Place. She's actually a trained mathematician, and she has 10 years' experience in the tourism industry. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Anisia Mbaga. Thank you for coming. All right. And last but not least, and joining us from Jordan, again, virtually, when we connected with her yesterday, she was on the way to the airport, which depicts her very busy schedule. She's a consultant to governments, NGOs, and the private sector in the space of sustainable tourism. She uses tourism as a tool for economic development by coming up with new models of community-based tourism, revitalizing secondary tourism destinations in 9 countries. She works with women in rural areas, resulting in the creation of thousands of jobs and restoring dignity to marginalized community. Please join me in welcoming the founding CEO of Baraka, right from Jordan, please. Muna Haddad. So ladies, welcome. Finally, it's our moment. This is the women's panel. This is our moment. This is where we get to inform the public and the global community what our wishes are, what our needs are as women. And I will start by this conversation with asking Lily, what actions the government of Botswana has taken to attain gender equality in the tourism sector?
Thank you very much, Jacinta. But before maybe I speak to what government has put in place to accelerate a participation of women in the tourism industry, I could first give a synopsis of where we sit currently in Botswana. According to the TSA, the Tourism Satellite Account report of 2019, estimates indicate that out of the over 700,000 people employed in Botswana, tourism represent 58,420 of those jobs, of which is 7.9%. But going further to that, still according to the statistics report of 2019 from the Department of Tourism on accommodation facilities, it indicates that 60% of the workforce in tourism is women, only 40% is men. So in terms of Botswana, where women sit, we are at 60%. However, we still need to drill down those figures and be able to understand at what level do women sit within this industry, of which we are not yet there. But I must further say that from our membership within HARTUB, indications are already showing that women are continuously taking up spaces at the high level, especially in the hospitality and tourism sector. Going into what government has done in ensuring that women play a meaningful role. Botswana has strengthened the institutional and policy frameworks and which help do that. For example, the National Policy on Gender and Development of 2015 and its National Operational Plan of 2018. Further to that, the National Development Plan 11, which include gender mainstreaming and the prevention of gender-based violence. And then the National Vision 2036, which recognizes gender equality as a key element to human social development, but also the affirmative action policy on remote area communities which was done in 2012, which provides poverty eradication alternative packages whose beneficiaries are mostly women. Is it sufficient? No. Can we improve on it? Yes, we believe we can improve on it. But of course, there are many other instruments that are geared towards supporting women participation in the tourism space. There could be other forums that could facilitate women, because when you look at women participation, it's in four folds. One, it's at ownership, whereby it's 100% ownership. Second is at shareholding. Thirdly is at joint venture. Fourthly, it's at employment level, of which we also need to look at it at the different structures. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lily, for that very comprehensive overview. Now, I will reach out to Marcella. Marcella, what do you think we should do, or what the WTTC, what actions can they take to accelerate women empowerment in Botswana, which is also based on your experience in other countries?
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you so much for giving WTTC the opportunity to be represented in this very, very important summit. So within the context of addressing the spectrum of challenges and opportunities in empower women within the tourism industry, I would like to highlight 5 key areas that need to be considered. First of them is capital investment, and this is going to be needed to increase the funding opportunities and investment programs specifically tailored for women entrepreneurs to stimulate their participation and success in the industry. The second area is a supportive ecosystem from all perspectives, which fosters women's work environment, entrepreneurship, and also leadership. The third area that WTTC sees as a key area is providing easy access to education and specialized training program to empower women with the skills required for leadership roles and also higher paying positions. The fourth area is implementing target financial vehicles such as scholarships, grants, or venture capital funds exclusive for women entrepreneurs to mitigate the financial hurdles. And last but not least, promoting and implementing a robust and diverse and inclusive practices within the tourism business that can create an inclusive environment where women have the equal opportunities for growth and advance. These steps represent pivotal aspects in the pursuit of gender equality and for the empowerment of women within the travel sector, and addressing barriers and paving the way for enhanced opportunities and fairer representation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Marcella, for those remarks. Now, I will look at an entrepreneur and her journey. What barriers did you face when you started up your enterprise, and how did you overcome those barriers, Ms. Anicia?
Good day, everyone. My name is Anisha Mbanga from Comfort Palace Guest House. I have 2 guest houses in Botswana, one in Francistown and another one in Kazungula Kasani, which is a tourist attraction place. I am one of the most happiest Botswana women who have been helped by the help of SIDA by funding. And I had an opportunity as a Botswana lady to be funded by SIDA. Now, what I'm going to say today is my whole journey from the beginning to where I am. Like she has already said, I'm a teacher by profession. But when Botswana started funding through the help of SIDA, I decided that I am going to be one of the few Botswana who was going to stand up, leave my job, and start a business. One thing that I have learned and I've gone through is that I realized that for one to run any business or for one to be successful in everything in life, there is need for passion, there is need for determination, and there is need for focus. These are the things that has carried me to start from nothing to where I am at the moment. So the challenges that I met as a Botswana woman in tourism business, number one that we are facing is though SIDA is funding us and giving us money to build our facilities. We've got one of the most beautiful facilities that can match world class. But it is only that our facilities are just what I can call a building. But when it comes to business, we have no business. We don't have much business as, I'm talking on behalf of all the other Botswana who are running business like me. Botswana have been funded to build beautiful facilities. But now one thing that is lacking is training, capacity building. Those are the things that are needed. I can be having the most beautiful guest house that has been funded by SIDA. But unless SIDA takes this opportunity of saying, I am going to train you, I am going to make sure that you are going through all the trade fairs. Number one issue that I don't want to forget is that even if SIDA can fund me and give me money to build the product and maybe furnish my facility, one challenge that I have realized that is faced by all women in tourism, especially in small facilities like mine, is that the facility will be there. But when it comes to SIDA having to cover money for training, money for trade fairs, we wish to go for international trade fairs, but the facility will be there, completed, but no training and no capacity building. So the main thing that we are facing is that we've got buildings, but we need training, we need capacity building. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I think she's articulated that very well, that the funding for the facades exists. But those facades cannot run by themselves. They need to be occupied by fully trained personnel. And what she feels is lacking from her space is capacity building. So thank you very much, Anicia. Now, Katlego, because you're in the deal-making space, can you reiterate on that and also give us just a bit of a background of what it is that you do?
Sure.
Yes.
And good afternoon. Thanks, Jacinta.
Yeah.
I'm from the Industrial Development Corporation of South Africa. We are a development finance institution that is state-owned, owned by the government of South Africa. And we're a specialist funder in various industries, including the tourism industry. I sit in the unit that specializes in funding the tourism sector as well as other sectors that we look into. So as a deal maker, I analyze and build up the investment opportunity that is going to be presented at an investment committee. So in short, that's what we do. And yes, in terms of the aspect that Anisha was talking about in terms of women funding, and by illustration, I'll just maybe paint the picture in the South African context. We are particularly concerned about ownership when it comes to women empowerment, because we found that that is a hard nut to crack. So in the way that we fund, we incentivize opportunities that are presented to have an element of woman ownership. And this is very much linked to the policy from the South African government perspective, where the tourism charter, there's a tourism charter that speaks to, BEE and how to comply with it. And it requires that a minimum 30% shareholding should be from Black entrepreneurs and minimum 15% should be from Black women entrepreneurs. So we want to align with that policy in the way that we fund. And how we align is that we give concessionary interest rates where there's that element. And what we're very concerned about is that when projects are presented to us, they shouldn't be just if I can, for lack of a better word, call it window dressing, that, a consortium has put together, shareholding, including a woman, so that they can get the concessionary funding. But we want to see that it's authentic, it's genuine. So we want to see the operational involvement where it's reasonably applicable, and we want to see that there's skills transfer over certain, milestones. Right. And to the extent, again within reason, that those milestones are not achieved, then we actually say the concessionary rating actually is taken off. And we've seen that actually bear fruit in the way that we fund, where, yes, initially we would get, those funding proposals where they would include women women ownership as part of the consortium for the concessionary rating. But because we are very much focused in terms of measuring the authentic empowerment of that particular woman, we've seen situations where those particular women are able to come back to the IDC after actually having had the skills transfer and actually presenting themselves anew and by themselves for their own opportunities to be invested, because they've actually had the benefit of the skills transfer from the first deal. So we're very much focused and concerned about ownership from a funding perspective, and that's how we seek to influence the women empowerment agenda.
Okay, thank you very much. So you've talked about ownership. Ownership is very important for women to be able to access the funding that they're looking for. From the audience, how many women have their own businesses, especially in the tourism space? From the audience, can I see by a show of hands? Yeah? Okay, that's quite a number of them. How many of you are having difficulties accessing finance? All the women, even those that don't have businesses, right? So long as you're a woman, you have a problem coming across financing, true or false? So ladies and gentlemen, I would urge you to see the lady from IDC, and perhaps she can guide you as to how you should access your financing. Now, so thank you very much, Katlego. Muna, let me reach out to you in Jordan. What has your experience been as you were setting up your social enterprise, and also as far as accessing funding is concerned?
Yeah, well, that was a funny story. I still hold my bank accountable to it. I remember that I had a big contract and they asked me to come in. I was asking for banking facilities, and they asked me to bring my father to co-sign for the facilities. So I still hold them accountable to that. But I mean, there are opportunities, and I think it's very similar to Botswana in that there are many opportunities through donor funding and some support programs that are very much geared towards supporting women in financing their projects. And we also finance women-run community projects. I think my biggest lesson learned here is that it is not enough to just provide the financing. Our experience has been that it is important to have an end-to-end service for women working in tourism businesses, specifically in rural areas and secondary tourism sites. It is not enough to just support the woman to open a business. You need to help her also in accessing the market. And there are so many lessons to be learned along the way. So we've seen that an incubator modality makes a lot more sense and has a lot more success rate when you step in and support women-run businesses from the beginning, all through the operation as well. And then the needs change along the way. And my colleague was just talking about capacity building. I think capacity needs change along the way as well. A lot of our partners, we have 153 people that we've supported their projects, 68% of them women-run businesses in rural areas and secondary tourism sites. And I think our biggest observation is that during the different cycles of the business, the needs change. In the beginning, it's how to put together a pitch for the banking, for the facilities, for the financing. And then the other piece after that is more on the operational front, on the management of a team front, how to support women in managing teams, in structuring their businesses. And then as the business gets on its feet, to grow it and take it through these milestones of growth. The needs very much evolve over time, and acknowledging and knowing this, I think, is critical in looking at supporting women-run businesses.
Thank you very much. It sounds, I like what you've just alluded to, that a woman needs support every step of the way. Doesn't that sound like motherhood? That it doesn't come with a manual, but a woman needs support. From the time that the baby is small, she needs support along the way. So I think that is very profound, that don't just let her have the baby, then guide her through the steps of parenting that business until that business is mature. So thank you very much, Muna from Jordan. Now, Nuzat, as representative of the big money, how can you guide Botswana as a government and women in particular to access funding from your organization?
Thanks. Before I start, I think on a lighter note, I think the first thing my request would be not to have a session on women at the end of the day where nobody has any energy to do anything. Maybe if we're serious about it, we should have more focus on the beginning of the day where there is energy and there is more people. I think that's probably the start of it. Maybe. So I have, as you have heard, I came here only 7 months, but I have settled down well, as a matter of fact, from the very first day. I agree with someone who said in Botswana it's people, and I fully agree with that. Fantastic people over here, welcomes people from outside, so that's really worked. It's not about all gaps we hear. I just want to acknowledge the gender gaps that Botswana has addressed well as well compared to the sub-Saharan. Maybe not as the middle-income country, but as the neighboring countries. I think it's the notable achievement on parity in school enrollment, board intake of family planning, broad intake, high rates of female entrepreneurship, and strong leadership in public sector. But there are a couple of gaps we still see here, where I think we all can, put our effort together on that. One is women's, political representation in national and local government. It's extremely important to have a leadership. and we are not, Botswana is not compared to other, neighboring countries. We are very low on that as yet. Of course, the access, labor force participation, access to job is also an issue when it comes to gender. And that brings the question that you had. An interesting, data, I don't know if you all are aware of it. There is a big thing in Botswana, which is gender-based, violence. Reported is 38%. And if you want to translate, and I'm from financial sector, it's also have a hurdle on GDP. It's conservatively, I think that the study shows it's about 3.7%. So now you understand where we can come in. We have to address that. And how do we address that is also the human skill, development skill that we can work with the government. And that's we have started. As World Bank, we have started our new country partnership framework, and that will be an important part in our conversation. On skill development, I think that's directly linked with the tourism sector. Somebody said service. I may not fully agree with you on that. I have traveled in Botswana, within Botswana. I think we need a lot of skill development here. And Lily is nodding, so she also agrees with me on this, I think. We do need that, but there's nothing wrong in it. I think it's important from our institutions. We not only funding, of course, funding is an issue where we can work together. Maybe we will not be able to do directly fund on very small, entrepreneurs, but we do that through our financial partners and through fund. And we would continue to do that. As you have heard today in the morning, we are part of the bigger fund in Africa where Botswana is part of it as well. So we are doing it. And the way we want to work with the government is more, on the policy making, on skill development, on, how we can reduce on the violence. And because violence is restraining a lot of women then coming to, proper education and then to the labor force. And also there is a gap on pay, I think women are paid 81%, men on the same job. So that's also an area that we would, work with them. And also we have seen the education in the enrollment is much higher. In the secondary, women are much higher, which is a great story. But then there is a huge fallout in the labor market. Then the women are lost. I think that's where the gender violence and all this comes in. So we would be happy to work with the government on those sectors where we think we can bring value on working with them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I think, Muna, I think you've covered that adequately, but just from the top of my head, I know you're new in the country and you've probably not grasped the full perspective, but how many women have actually applied for these facilities from where you're sitting in Botswana, on average? Muna? Sorry. Yes.
Can you repeat
Nuzat,
it?
sorry, I was asking how many women have actually applied for your facilities in the country?
So in last 7 months,
yes, at least
I have sat with 14 or 15 projects coming in. I would say not full-fledged projects. People came in for help. For various reasons, I think it's not a bankable project to finance. Different reasons. One was they just thought about it and just came and wanted to talk about it. So the financing will not happen like that. Second, they have a plan, but they don't have team who can deliver that. So the numbers and the projects is not there. Third reason is there is not enough data where you can make the project viable. Mm-hmm. So I think this would be broad 3: skill, development of project, and then data.
Okay.
These are the 3 I think I have seen that more or less when people come, there is a real gap.
Okay, all right. So there's a gap that needs to be addressed on how women actually approach potential funders in that space. There's a huge gap there. So thank you very much, Nuzat. And just before we wind up, Lily, you have the figures at the top of your mind. Out of the 460 institutions that you supervise, how many are owned by women? On average, you don't need to give us specific figures.
It's a very small number.
Right.
It's a very small number in terms of ownership. Women are still sitting at a very low level.
It's a very low number, okay. Our government officials are tapping into that. And I believe that this forum will perhaps now help women understand that there is a gap for you. There is an opportunity for you to tap into these spaces and invest and also participate in the tourism sector. Now, let us look for tangible takeaways. I have noticed that throughout our discussions in the morning, there is a very big percentage of persons that was left out. And that percentage are the youth. Nobody seems to have addressed anything to do with the youth. Yet, we're in the continent that is the youngest on the planet. Africa has the youngest population and fastest growing population in the world. And I have felt that that has been left out. Now, I support the AFCFTA programs, and there is a protocol for women and youth. So I feel that that is a gap that can be tapped into. What is it that we're giving our young people so that they can participate in a space like this? So perhaps Botswana can be one of the countries at the forefront that carves out a niche for the youth to participate in. So perhaps that can be one of the big takeaways, that the youth need to be incorporated in a lot of these programs that we're talking about. Now, that is just from my perspective. From my ladies in the panel, Katlego, what do you feel should be a big takeaway from this conversation?
Can you hear me? Yes. And before I get to that, Jacinta, I just wanted to mention, I don't think I did, that the IDC also funds in the continent. I think I was just very much focused in the South African context. But we do fund in the entire continent, essentially. So I think that's important to know. And I think my biggest takeaway is really that there needs to be intentional strategies around women's participation in as far as ownership is concerned. As Lily has just painted the picture around, the ownership by women. And it starts from policy, and if it starts from policy, then funding can actually follow through, just like how I've illustrated it works in our space. Right, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Anicia, what do you feel we can give the audience from your experience?
Before I can summarize, I think I had a serious stage fright at the beginning and I missed out some points. But now I want to elaborate on some issues. Our government is always promising that they will support small businesses like ours. We have a situation whereby us as small operators, guest houses, we wish government employees should come and lodge at our facilities. But we find out that whenever there is whether traveling of this kind or gatherings of this kind, only big facilities are considered. We realize that us as small businesses, we suffer because government has not put up a deliberate policy that they are going to support us as small business people. We have long cried as small businesses and small guest houses that we want our government to put up a policy of a standing of a or what you call a local podium, so that people can be given their money instead of an imprest, so that they can decide to where they want to go and lodge. But if you give them interest, they will rather go and sleep at Grand Palm, because they know that that money, if they don't use, they are going to return back to the government. But us as small businesses, we are appealing to government. You keep on promising us that you will support us. We need a support that is practical. Thank you.
Okay. I think
And the other thing is, when it comes to financing, I cannot be financed. I'm sorry, I'm going to say the reality that I am feeling as a business person. We cannot be financed partially. For example, I will be given, let's say I approach CEDA. I want 5 million pula so that I can upgrade my guest house. They will look at it and feel that maybe I will fail to return it. What do? They give me little money. I am forced to take it because I want to expand. Then when I take this money, I'm going to build, yes, the structure will be finished. But things like furniture, like linen, you realize that me as a guest house or a smaller facility, I cannot even afford a 200 thread count bed linen. Then what happens? I try to market myself internationally. Guests, they come in and they feel that the facility and the building is great. But it's like you are lacking something. It's like you cannot, it's like your product is not compact. Your product is not complete. So I am urging our government, if you want to fund me, make sure that you fund me until you see that I get the right market. You fund me even for you.
she's speaking to somebody.
Fund me that you make sure that I attend the Indaba conference. You don't tell me. I don't want, the government doesn't have to tell me. Like CEDA, you don't tell me you are going to fund me until my project is complete. It is complete. I am a young or a small business woman. It is complete. Yes, you've done a beautiful thing for me. Thank you for to my beautiful government, my wonderful government. You have given me a product, but this product is not complete until the customer enters my room.
That is the CEO of Comfort Place.
So the issue of land ownership. In the past, I'm sorry, I need to cover this. I was scared at the beginning, but let me say my point.
I will have to cut you short. So 2 minutes, 2 minutes, Anicia. Yes.
Traditionally, women were disadvantaged as far as land ownership. But my beautiful government, nowadays, the land is open. We are given land. But one thing that I have realized, this land is coming in the form of tenders. Recently, I was one of the women who was blessed to get a big chunk of land in Chobe, where I want to put up a cultural village. But one thing I have realized that, is that though the land, I managed to win the tender and get the land, not everyone was going to win that tender, because the kind of questioning that is asked, you need to have the passion like me of tourism, you need to have the passion of land management, environmental impact, you need to have issues of conservation, which I had and I managed to win. So I am appealing to the land board and the government that whenever you want to empower these women, please make sure that you push them, you train them, let them know the government policies. I have a lot to say, but unfortunately, I had a phrase that at the beginning I couldn't say what I wanted to say. Now,
that is it. Thank you. Thank you very much, Anicia. So, ladies and gentlemen, she's extremely passionate about her business. She is speaking as a practitioner, somebody who is on the ground and who is running with all the challenges that have been heaped on her, but she knows that there is a way forward. So for everybody that is cheering up her up here, I would suggest that you see her after this and please book a room at the Comfort Palace. Kindly. And now, from a global perspective, Marcella, please give us your takeaways and tell us what you feel this forum should wind up with. Thank you.
Yes, so first of all, we need to continue to highlight the importance of traveling tourism, considering that in Botswana, 1 of every 10 jobs is thanks to travel and tourism. And not only that, but in Botswana, 51% of the representation is by women. But these numbers won't mean anything unless we have a support system behind it in order to not only foster the capital investment, but also the ecosystem that will continue to support, and including, based on the conversations that we heard, passion is very important, extremely important, but also it's necessary to have a mentorship program behind it to make sure that it goes from the very start until the successful of the women's entrepreneurship.
Much, Marcella. And thank you very much for joining us all the way from the UK. Now, let me ask Nuzat, perhaps you could tell us what your key takeaways are?
Thanks. So for me, I think what we can offer is how much, the Botswana wants to take. So it's important that, for me, I'm happy to, assist in any way we can. But it's also important that Botswana needs to decide how much they want to take.
Okay, so Botswana, the ball is on your court. How much do you want to take? From what I'm reading, I think you have an open checkbook right there in the form of Nuzat. So please see her after this. Muna, from Jordan, what are your key takeaways for us?
I think the key takeaway is when we're talking about women empowerment, to fully understand that women are powerful already, and we need to hyper-localize what power looks like. Power looks very different in different places. What does power look like for a woman from Botswana? And to really draw that line from working with a lot of foreign entities, and draw that line and say, no, this is our local context. This is what works. And I think that would be my key takeaway. Power looks different in different places. So here's to the women of Botswana who are leading, and to really acknowledge and know that we see you, we hear you, your power looks very different than any other place, and own that and make your success look the way you look and sound the way you sound.
I think is profound. And last but not least, Lily, you started us off. What are your key takeaways?
For me, my takeaway is that Botswana tourism is still a very young industry, oozing with opportunities for development. And the women already have demonstrated that they want to play in this space, as Mambanga has already showed us. We just need to provide a conducive environment for them to be able to do so. And we already have development partners who are willing for us to bite as much as our mouth can take. So indeed.
Yes, absolutely. So I think the ball is in our court now, as members of the audience, as the community within this country, but also for any woman entrepreneur that wants to get into this space, that you have to have a tangible project, you have to have something that is viable, and then there is the element of ownership that should ride along with your request. So with that in mind, I feel that we have exhausted this conversation because of the time that we had. And I'd love to thank my panelists for bringing it home only the way a woman can do it. Ladies and gentlemen, these are your diamonds. These ladies here and all the ladies that joined us virtually, these are your diamonds. Thank you very much, and please join us for a group photograph.